be conceited with low self-esteem. She's a teenage dream if you hate yourself. Bright-dyed hair and obnoxious clothes, thinks communism is the way to go. She's a whore, a hole, a dime a dozen Jezebel. Low right mind and SSR eyes, 1,000 yards there for all those guys that she fucked and sucked before you came along. Retarded views on politics, likes to listen to shitty music. She drinks and smokes and toasts out of a dirty bong. She saw Ramona Flowers and felt so empowered by a movie made in Hollywood. It's sad to think she's someone's daughter, like a lamb to the slaughter. But honestly, I'd still hit if I could. BPD and ecstasy, 30 years old but acts like she's 16. Likes to go to shows cause she's so fucking cool. Bright-eyed hair but dead inside, Plan B lifetime supply. She's a whore, a hole, gave head since middle school. Only pedophiles in denial, if she's anything worthwhile. Her fertile lifestyle drive you wild. She's an alcoholic loser bitch that likes to listen to shitty music. She drinks and smokes and cokes and chokes on dick. She saw Ramona Flowers and felt so empowered by
which I think this can be a good way to hold it. A lot of times you tend to see Terran players just spamming out as many Marines as they can to try to fit in the barracks. It looks like he's going to try to make a siege tank with that. And I think this actually will kind of time out very nicely, as he will at least be able to start producing one siege tank. He has 2 bunkers finished, so he has a very quick response to this. That bunker does just barely finish. Only 1 Marine in it though, so it will get taken out pretty quickly. And this damage is just going to keep piling up here from Vivid. And behind this, Vivid is going for a macro follow-up, as he is getting the hatch and he's getting drones. Sometimes you just see Zergs just straight up follow this up with a lot more Ravagers. Now that siege tank out is going to complicate things quite a lot. You don't commonly see a siege tank being produced this early to deal with this push. Normally a lot of Terrans just don't opt for that. But I think it's going to do very well here, especially because of getting the second one out, versus the style that Vivid is doing. Oh, it actually kills that siege tank. Really nicely done there. Because he's not continuing to produce Ravagers, I think this is going to go into a bit of a longer game, as we do have another siege tank out here. Don't know if Vivid is aware of that. But it looks like that's going to be... Oh no, he has the barracks producing an additional tech lab. Very smart. But Last Surprise has definitely held this. I think he's going to be okay. Will he? No, just barely not. So I think Vivid really just needs to kind of hold the bottom of the ramp here. I'm gonna lose a couple of those. Because at this stage of the game, because he's going for a macro follow-up, he is really going to need to try to play a bit of catch-up here. Because his economy was pretty bad until just about now. Like, the Terran is still ahead in workers. Of course, the Terran is mining, actually just mining right about even. Mostly because of those mules. So this really hasn't, I don't think, panned out very well for the Zerg. I did say at the start of this that I thought this was going to be very strong because there was no SCV scare. But that was a very quick reaction from Last Surprise, and you kind of went for a bit of a gamble there. Because sometimes if you go for that, for the like siege tank production, you end up not being able to really deal with like the follow-up if they just continue to go for a Roach Ravager. But Vivid this time not deciding to go for that, instead going for a macro follow-up. Last Surprise will finally be able to take his low ground. And then we have our first Banshee heading across the map. Cloak's almost done, but I believe Vivid has a Spore in each base, so he should be okay as far as that goes. This one's just finishing up, but no drones over here. So Vivid's finally taken a bit of a worker lead here. Of course, his economy's probably still about even, if not a bit behind, just because of mules and such. That Banshee's gotten, I think, 1 kill. Yeah, 1 kill. So, not the most of damage, but at this stage of the game, considering what happened, what Last Surprise should be more concerned with is definitely the follow-up. There's a lot of things Zergs can do behind an aggression like this. And it's important for Last Surprise to see what's going on. So from what he's seen, let's go to his vision actually. So like he's seen a lair, he's seen the Roach War, and he's seen the 2 gases. So because he only seen the 2 gases, it's really not too worrisome for him. He realizes that it's probably just going to be more like a typical macro style from the Zerg player. You're kind of going in there to look and see like, okay, is this 2-base Muta? Is this going to be like a Nidus follow-up? And while that layer can definitely indicate that there could be a Nidus in the future, with the lack of gases, I don't think it's going to be. And Last Surprise is looking to head into a pretty strong mid game here. It's quite a lot of tanks. And at this point in time, the Zerg is still building a lot of drones, even going for ranged upgrades as well. So it looks like Vivid is going to want to try to play with a Roach style here, which is really not common, especially among against bio players. Like you see, some Zerg players will use kind of like a Roach Lingbane style versus like say Cyclone Mech, which I think that works very well, but I'm not quite sure about how efficient this is going to be versus just a typical bio player. See if we can end up the Hydralisks as well. So I guess maybe just heading into Hydralingbane. I don't believe he has... No, he doesn't have Roach Speed, so I don't think he's going to be using Roachlingbane. That Banshee being pretty annoying, picking away at that 4th base. It's going to force Vivid to move all of his queens. Surprised in a pretty good spot this game. He's a bit behind where he would want to be macro-wise. You'd want a bit more workers at this time, and this is kind of when you want to be starting your 4th base. But of course, the start of this game kind of stunted everyone's growth a bit. Of course. Sorry. I tabbed it because I thought I had an important message and it's just someone PMing me a meme. Combat Shield's just about finished here. So now, Last Surprise has +1/+1, and it looks like he's going to be heading out. He's kept the siege tank production quite consistent throughout this game, which is going to be very important. I'm not sure if we're going to see him add on some more macro facilities here. So I believe, what's he at now? 5 racks? Yeah. It's going to need to add on some more racks in the factory, but he might just want to focus all his time into this push right now. Get a bit of a counterattack hidden across the map, but Last Surprise has kept some units banked over there, so it's not really going to be too much of a big deal. So you see the units all basically get killed there on the minimap. Let's see. So I think Vivid here has a pretty weak army to fight against this, especially like Roach Lingbane versus, or sorry, Hydralingbane versus the amount of siege tanks that Last Surprise has. That's really going to favor Last Surprise in a straight up engagement. So it looks like Vivid kind of realizing this is instead opting to try to do a bit of counterattacks here, because I really don't think he can face this army head on. But Last Surprise is kind of committed to like this 3-base attack here. Like he's floating quite a lot behind this. He's kind of let his macros slip, and it looks like he's letting his army get surrounded there. All the tanks caught without any units to support it. And he's just lost all the tanks that he's been building up this whole game. He has some more units at home, but this is really just not what he wanted to have happen at this fight. He wanted to take that fight with all the units. He's killed quite a lot of drones though, so he has been able to maintain a bit of an economy lead here now. His production is kicking in. More racks are going to be on the way. Does have a 4th base, so even though his production is going to be a bit late here, I think Last Surprise is still going to be in a pretty good spot. He's adding on a 2nd factory as well, so it means he'll be able to rebuild a siege tank count here. But Vivid might have an opportunity here to come in and do some damage if Last Surprise is caught out here. No, not a lot of Balians though out of Vivid. I don't think he can really commit enough Balians to really fight this force here. It's a lot of Marines. And Vivid's drone count's still very low. Cleaning up a bit of that drop. It's going to head into the main, but there's quite a lot of spores up here, so definitely don't think there's any way that drop is going to survive this. Two upgrades are almost done here, so Last Surprise going to go for that, you know, the standard Terran 2-2 push. And he has a dominant supply lead at this point. Unless he takes an extremely bad fight here and needs some bad mainline shots, I think he's going to have high hopes coming into this. And he is taking up behind this as well. Ghost Academy is on the way. As you do see, Vipers are going to be the tech of choice from our reserve player. Really just not a lot of units here to deal with this push. Not enough mainlines to fight this, especially Last Surprise coming into these patrol splits. That's a pretty old technique. We don't really see that as much nowadays. Interesting that Last Surprise does it this way. So it works really well, of course. Like, maxed out is Last Supply. Reinforcements are going to be on the way here. Should see him start throwing down some more CCs behind this. Looks like he's going into some ghosts as well. Probably going to want... Yeah, he's getting some more starports too. So he's really on point with what he needs at this point. He kind of realizes that, okay, I'm maxed out now. My opponent has high tech. So what am I going to do? And now here comes the big fight. The Vipers are pulling in a lot of the tanks, but there's still quite a lot of Marines here left behind us. It looks like Vivid will be able to hold off this push, as Last Surprise, he didn't bring the full force of his army here to fight. A lot of it was left behind there, and we do have a little Marine hit squad coming in here. Going to try to hit at this third base. Nothing in position here to deal with this. Reinforcements are on the way here from Vivid. A couple drones are going to go down, but not enough it seems. And Last Surprise has had, you know, a lead in quite a lot of positions in this game, but Vivid just holding on. If Vivid can just get to that fabled late game Zerg composition that shall not be named, maybe he can hold on. Did he lose his Baneless? Oh, I think he must have accidentally killed it with his Vipers. That's funny. That hatchery is so low too. I'm extremely impressed by Vivid here. Like, he's been down like 30-40 supply this whole game and he's still holding out. And he hasn't even built the broken units yet. But even if he does get out Infestors or Broodlords here, I don't think that's going to be the problem, as Last Surprise has, like, his tech is ahead of Vivid's quite considerably. He already has a decent amount of ghosts. I think he built like 5 he has 8 ghosts now, and he's producing a lot of ranged liberators with some upgrades. So the tech here from Last Surprise is pretty good, and I think he's in a good spot. Maybe just needs to expand a bit more aggressively. At this point of the game, one thing I think you don't see as many Terrans doing as they should is this is when you need to start replacing your workers with orbitals. So I'd like to see him to start throwing down like 5 or 6 command centers. Like, he has the bank to do it. And this is kind of where, like, you either keep the economy that you have, because he has at 85 workers, which is much more than your typical Terran. And if you get hit by, say, like a Baneling run by, you can just replace that economy with mules. And it's really just not something you need to worry about, like, at that later stage of the game, because you've replaced your economy with mules. Thanks for the follow. Alright, bit of a Bioforce here coming in. Liberators are going to siege. Family's going to blow up on some Marauders, but we do have Vipers here. So we should be able to pull these Liberators out of position. Overall, I don't think this is really... Oh, sorry. I don't have a bracket command. I'll post it in chat later. Or maybe I'll add it to the description or something. I'm not sure. But we have a lot of ghosts here. Vivid really doesn't care about Dieselings, Banes, or Hydralisks. He really just wants to replace these with a better unit composition. More Infestors coming out. And Vivid's maintained quite a small base count here, staying even off the Terran for most of the game. Last Surprise has been pretty efficient with these drops here. Just kind of, he's made sure to apply pressure when he needs to, especially because these bio units are really not that beneficial at this stage of the game. You would much rather like use them and then rebuild them. And there's no point saving them, especially when you have the bank that Last Surprise has. Now we have the stage of the game where the Terran is going to start nuking. This is an important stage of the game. Last Surprise actually keeping a lot of his Ghosts and Liberators out here in the open. This can work out pretty well. Did you snipe a Baneling? He doesn't have any supporting units with this either. So it looks like he's just going to try to limit the Zerg's base count here. And nukes are a good way to do this. (11 HP). Alright, so Vivid is up to his Broodlord Infestor composition. But Last Surprise has done a really good job of staying out on the map. I am a bit worried. The Last Surprise has kind of like stopped expanding at this point. He's even going to start mining out at one of these bases here. And with 86 workers, like, that's just dead supply if you're not mining efficiently with it. Even though, of course, like, if we look at Last Surprise's bank, you'd be like, oh, he really doesn't need any more money. He has a lot of money in the bank, right? There's the brackets there. But there's always something you can spend it on. Like, even if you keep sending command centers over and they keep dying, like, might as well try. It just helps you secure more of the map. If you're going to go into this late game style, like, you really need to be confident, like asserting your dominance over parts of the map. As weird as that sounds. A little bit of a Ling run by here. This is another part of the game too, where I think Last Surprise's SCV count is going to kind of hurt him. He's just not going to have enough units to really go back and defend. Alright, a couple of snakes going to go off. He's going to pick off a single Broodlord there. He doesn't have enough to reinforce his position here. He's going to have to pull back. He's lost a couple ghosts, so not a horrible trade. More nukes are going off. He's actually killed a single base here with nukes alone. So Vivid really not having a good time with this multitasking. Looks like Last Surprise is going to expand up here now. I don't know where else he has units. Where are these by? Okay, so he has a drop here. It's 4 siege tanks. Alright, so you're just gonna fill out on some more Liberators here and Ghosts. Sumina's coming up here to try to deny this expansion. So there's a couple of CVs, but at this point in the game I feel like this is healthy for him. This worker count is just ridiculously huge at this point. Where's Last Surprise's army? He has some units down there. Oh, sorry, they're down here. So Last Surprise opting to instead go for a bit of a counterattack here. He doesn't want to play that reactive game here. Or, like, he doesn't want to just keep playing a defensive game, rather. He's just going to instead go and, you know, if you're going to take one of my bases, I'll take one of yours. And, I mean, I think that that game ends up winning for Last Surprise in the end, as he does have really an incredible amount of units at his disposal here. A couple of Liberators on forward to set up here. We have the full Ghost Liberator army here. He could get some really good snipes off here if he's paying attention. He's going to pick off a lot of these Corruptors. These Ghosts still have a decent amount of energy left. Those Sling Runbys at the top have done quite a lot of damage. But if we look at the gas bank here for Vivid, he really can't afford to replace too much of his army here. Oh my god, even gonna get enough. Will he get another one? No. Still, that's a lot of damage to take at this point. Like, every infestor is so precious to Vivid. He just can't afford to replace it. He doesn't have the economy to really reinforce this army if it takes any significant losses. The Siege Tank here is going to get some hits on these Banelings. Looks like it will get cleaned up. One Ghost comes forward. Just going to pick off a couple of these Broodlords, it looks like. EMP is going off on all the Infestors, and that's so good for Last Surprise. He should be able to pick off a lot more of these Broodlords now. He just needs to back off a bit and let those Broodlings hit the Liberator zones. This army from Vivid is really caught out here. I think this is going to be really tough to survive here. Big snipes come down on all the Broodlords there. Only a couple of them left, but can these Banelings hit the Ghosts here? Oh god. All the Ghosts getting killed there. But I think the Liberators can actually do a decent job versus his ground army if they just back up. Damn. Those Banelings really just connected big in that fight there for Vivid. First time in the game that he's taken a supply lead here. More Ghosts and Liberators are on the way though. Snipes going off on the Corruptors. Picks off a couple of them. This base should survive. These Infestors are really low energy. Looks like Vivid is going to take a couple more bases up here. Finally getting his economy back in shape. And a lot of workers have gone down here for Last Surprise. This base finally does go down. He has 6k minerals in the bank here. He could just produce a lot of Marines and move them across the map. Looks like that's what he's going to do. I mean, if you have the minerals for it, like, I feel like you might as well. It's going to try to expand down there. Looks like that's really not in the map presence of Vivid. Bit of a lane run by is going to come down there. And there's really just action going on all across the map here. Vivid's doing a good job with a small amount of units to try to force Last Surprise's attention. Looks like we are going to have a bit of a drop here. Some bio comes in, and this is going to give him some space to push in here with some Ghosts. Does he have any nukes? He has one nuke. Really big EMP is on all the Infestors. All the energy is gone. And that means that these Ghosts can come in and pretty much have their way here. And Ghosts do pretty good just straight up versus most Zerg units, honestly. Except for Banelings. So it looks like Last Surprise is just going to start kind of teching back a bit. Going into some more Marines and Medevacs. As this game has gotten pretty scrappy. And with 4k minerals to work with here, like, you know, that's a lot of Marines to make. Probably needs to start filling up on his workers again. I'd like to see him just kind of sit down and try to secure a couple more bases here. Because I feel like every time he kills the base from Vivid, Vivid has another base going up somewhere. And every fight really for Last Surprise could be his last if he just takes a really bad engage here. Oh, he's going to pick up every single Viper. That's really huge. Couple Infestors going down with some sloppy control there. And even though Vivid has a supply lead, I don't necessarily think it's helpful for him. Most of that isn't workers, actually. And really, Last Surprise doesn't... Like, he should be rebuilding workers at this point. Because he has, like, none. What is he going to do here? He just killed a huge amount of workers. This is really good for Last Surprise. Cost efficiency for these Ghosts is going to really show itself, I feel, in this next part of the game. So it looks like Last Surprise has finally secured himself another base here. It's going to move over here and try to secure another one as well. As the one up in the top really doesn't have a whole lot of resources left. What did I... Okay. I was going to say, I haven't heard music for a while. Some Marines in the back here. These are actually going to trade really well versus all these Lings. And, like, if you just look at the bank here, Vivid, he just doesn't have a lot here. So even these Marines being able to kill a couple of the gas units here, or mineral units even, like the Lings, is really good for Last Surprise. Because Last Surprise can just max out on Marines. These Marines are going to come in here, they're going to pick off a couple of these Infestors. This is really good for Last Surprise. Liberators are flying in now, and I think this could be the beginning of the end here for Vivid, as Last Surprise, he's come in here. Vivid doesn't really have a whole lot here to fight this off. Vivid still has a base down here in the bottom left side of the map. Looks like he's going to send some drones there to mine from it. But he just doesn't have a whole lot of units. Oops. Doesn't have a whole lot of units to work with. There's only 30 drones left. And it's a tough line to walk at this point, because if he invests too much back into drones to get his economy back in shape, I feel like he's not going to be able to take another fight versus this scrappy little army here from Last Surprise. And of course, I don't think Last Surprise realizes the situation he's in either. If he sees how ahead he's been for most of this game, I feel like he'd have a good laugh at it. At this stage of the game too, I think it's really hard for Vivid to ever tech back into Broodlords, just because they're just not mobile enough for him to fight Last Surprise. You see it every time they've tried to have a fight here. Last Surprise comes back and attacks another location. Can this Infestor get a huge fungal off? This hidden base is going to provide quite a lot of minerals here for Vivid. At this stage of the game, though, like, once if Last Surprise started using his his orbital energy for mules instead of scans, he could have such a good economy. But he really just wants to use that for the information instead. Really nice drop up here in the top. These Marines are going to get cleaned up. But he's really got what he wanted to accomplish there. He killed off the base. Seeing that there was no base here. There's not really a lot of minerals left to mine from at this point for this base. Oh god, a couple drones going down. So precious. There's so few drones left here for Vivid. Every drone, it matters a lot for him. Even each Overseer matters a lot. Every Overseer. Overlord, even. Alright, now this army is kind of caught in the middle of the map here. This is, I think, Last Surprise's game to lose at this point. Oh, do we see huge fungal going on in most of the ghosts? Some more EMPs go off in the rest of them. I don't think this is going to be enough damage to deal with these ghosts. All the Infestors going down, just about all of them anyways. Yeah, that's it. All the Infestors are dead. All the Liberators have been killed, however, but there's just not enough money here from Vivid to remake anything. All he has left is some Lings. There's 2 infestors over here. But he just, I don't think he can hold on versus any of the Marines here. He doesn't have enough gas to make any good units at this point. And if 10 Marines at a time now, I think Last Surprise can just move his way across the map here. I really did not expect this from our first game of the day. A really big fungal going off, killing a couple of those ghosts, but he will trade that infestor off. The space down the bottom left is still mining, but that's going to be it. GG is going to be called. Last Surprise, taking game number 1. Alright, now just waiting on game 2 here. We're just waiting on the players here to get ready. I should bring up that if you guys are wondering, how can I donate $1 for free to this tournament? Well, you can just head over to the match right now and use the coupon code. Oh crap, what was it? Let me find it. I should have thought of that before I started speaking. Yes, Melee 83. It's the coupon code. All one word. I'll post that in chat as well. Really helps out the people running this tournament if you guys would go and do that. It's just really nice to, I guess, the sponsors lets people know or how many people are willing to watch stuff like this. They have people like who are willing enough to go and type in a coupon code on a website like this. Plus, it gives out free money to the players. Alright, so both our players are now ready. We're going to be loading into our next match. It's going to be on Ephemeron. Alright, so the winner of our last match, our purple Terran down here in the bottom right, it is Last Surprise. And up here on the top of the left, we have a red. It's our Zerg player. It is Vivid. So last game, Vivid did go for a pretty aggressive strat early on. Went for a Roach Ravager all-in. Kind of forgot about that as the game progressed. We had a Roach Ravager all-in that led into like a freaking 35-minute game. But this time, going for the polar opposite of that, going for a hatch first, and sorry. My scoreboard was just wrong there. And this is not very common at all, actually, what Last Surprise is doing. It's going for a wall-in on the low ground. I believe this was a gas first as well, so not quite sure. Looks like he's going for an SCV scout this time, which will be really good. This will let him know what's up. And this is pretty ballsy considering what happened to him in the last game. But he will come over here. You will see that it was a hatch first. Sees the pool and the gas timing. So he should be pretty comfortable. I've never seen Terran wall off like this in my life. I'm really interested to see how this pans out. I mean, this seems like a much stronger wall even too, just because it's not made up of supply depots in the CC. It's even for this map specifically, it's even more economical, because if you build your third base over here on the high ground, like not only is that safer because it's not going to get destroyed, but you can move it down to your third base even quicker. So this actually could be an incredibly big brain play. And it looks to be just a standard Hellion opening, but we do have a very early layer actually coming out here from Vivid. I'm not sure what this could be. Could be 2-base layer. Into like a 2-base meta, rather. That's what I meant to say. Bunker going down at the third base, so. Could be a Nidus as well. I mean, so he's droning up quite a bit now. Okay, so it is going to be roaches, so I think there's a good chance that this could be a Nidus play. Of course, Niduses are very strong right now in the current matchup. I don't know how that happened, but he also built 2 Reapers. I didn't even realize that. So 2 Reapers and a couple of Hellions. So he should realize, of course, that this third is going to be a bit delayed. When the hell did he make it? Okay, so he made an armory as well. I didn't even realize that. This is turning out to be a very interesting game. And Last Surprise sees absolutely everything in the main base. He sees the lair, Roach Ward, and the Nidus network. So he knows at this point in time that he just needs to go home and defend. He almost has... His starport just finished. He has an armory too, so that's going to give him access to Hellbats, which is going to be so good for defending this. He just morphs him in right there. Yeah, and I don't think that we're going to see the potential for any in-base Niduses to happen here. I think it's fine though for him to Nidus in the natural like this, or the third base rather. But I don't think this is looking great for Vivid. There's one in the natural here going up. Looks like Last Surprise is just alerted about it now. Some SVs have been pulled. Some Hellbats here are going to try to take this out. Some Queens are coming out. They will transfuse that Nidus. It's not going to go down. And it looks like all these Hellbats are going to get cleaned up here. Nidus does get cleaned up eventually, but a second one is on the way, and that should be finished soon. And even though these Hellbats were great at holding off the Niduses at first, they're not going to be great versus the Roaches. Our first Banshee is out. Cloak is on the way, but there's just one Queen currently down here. We have 3 on the map total. The other one's back at home, where were they? Okay, so all the Queens are at the natural here. And he's, oh my god, so big brain. He's even getting Spore Crawlers to deal with the Cloak Banshee. The Roaches are just going to walk up the ramp. They're going to kill all the Reapers here. There's a couple more Queens on the low ground. The Banshee is so key for the defense here. It's going to need to advance this creep up quite a bit. And I didn't even notice, but there is now a Roach Warren in the main. Or not a Roach Warren, god. I am misspeaking like crazy. Now I just have in the main. Roaches are coming in here. They're going to pick off that starport just right completely. And they're going to start killing quite a lot of these Roaches here. Vivid Supply really dominating his opponent at this point of the game. There's already Spore Crawlers down at the natural. So all these SCVs have kind of trapped themselves down here. Now the Roaches could even go down there and start fighting the SCVs with the protection of the Spore Crawlers. Last Surprise just doesn't have any safe places to run to. This is just a meat grinder. It's 18 workers left, but he's lost so much of everything really. Like, he's lost so many of his buildings. Barely has any supply depots left. It's 2 factories and a barracks. Vivid picking off that last mine. These Roaches are going to come into the main, and they're basically just going to int onto these SCVs. Another Nidus going down here. But at this point of the game, I really feel like Vivid is in such a dominating position. I don't really think there's any way he can lose this. Where's this tank going to pop out? This tank could just get spawn killed as soon as it comes out. And there it is. More reinforcements coming into the main. Spore Crawlers here are going to assist us, and GG's called. And Vivid going to tie up the series. Alright, so we're going to be going into our final game of the series between these two players. It's going to be on Triton. I'm interested to see what type of cheese Vivid is going to bring out. I really think if we didn't know much about Vivid before, we have figured him out now. We know he's a cheesy player, but what's he going to bring? So here's our Terran player spawning in at the bottom right side of the map in the purple. It is Last Surprise. And this game will truly be this player's opportunity to bring out his last surprise. It's gonna be Vivid. That was horrible. So yeah, Vivid's really shown a couple pretty strong cheeses. They're pretty safe ones, though, if we're gonna be honest. Like, I really feel like that Roach Ravager. Sorry, that Ravager all-in. Like, that's a pretty figured out, like, aggressive build. And I think that's really why you could see how easy it was for him to transition to that later game. Of course, his economy never really recovered as that game got along, but he was still able to play that game out with some really good unit control. And that first game lasted for quite a while. But I think it's very clear that Vivid is an aggressive player. He likes to play for some, cheesy builds. And I'm interested to see what he's going to bring out this time. He went for a Hatch First again this time. And he actually scouted for a Proxy Rax. And from what we've seen so far at a Last Surprise, it looks like he just likes to play a much more standard style. Last game he tried to go for mech, but he wasn't allowed to play the game because of the Unitas all-in. So we'll have to see what he decides to go for this time. I think the Proxy Rax would be a bit out of character from him. So I'm interested, or it's interesting to see that Vivid has scouted for that. But of course, Proxy Rax is a macro build, like every other Terran build. That's a very cute spray. I think continuous music isn't on. One sec, sorry. That would be why we're not hearing music. Okay, so this time looks like we're just gonna have a pretty stock standard Hellion opening here. Last game we've seen Last Surprise go for like a Hellbat timing, which was very interesting. Tistosis actually had a good bit about Hellbat timings the other day, where they're just talking about how it's just like, it is the most boring all-in a Terran player can do, because every Terran player in the world can do a Hellbat all-in, and every Terran player in the world does Hellbat all-ins. They're just always good, to some extent. They're just very, very simple. It makes perfect sense. Like, I'm just going to slap down the armory, and then I'm going to click the Hellbat button, and we're going to see what happens. But this game, it looks like our Terran player is going to opt for some BCs. This is kind of like the Hellbat stuff, except it's much more epic because you get a BC, and you send it into the main, and then you click the Hellbat button. But you click the Hellbat button at a different place in the BC. So then the Zerg goes, oh heck, there's a BC in my main. And they really have to deal with that. But then suddenly, oh man, there's BCs in my third base. And it's just not a good time for the Zerg player. We do have a Baneling Nest and a Roach Horn here from our Zerg player. That's interesting. A lot of... No, there's not that many queens. But this is actually a lot of units. And I think maybe that Vivid does not want to play versus this. So he's going to go and just... he's just going to go kill him. That's a lot of Hellions though. They're just going to run right by him. And some, this could be so good if he just heads into the main. There's no queens there. You see all the queens just go into the main. No, no, you could kill all the drones. Oh, he wasted it. He wasted his opportunity. He could have ran in there. He could have killed all these drones and then came up here and killed all these ones. Because all the units are across the map. I'm not quite sure how this all-in is going to work out though, because there's going to be a BC here and there's not a whole lot of anti-air. Only 4 queens, and these are slow queens at this point too. So I feel like the BC is going to have a really easy time just kiting through the queens, around the queens here. Of course, these roaches will be difficult as they will take a lot of shots from the BC before it can really prevent them from doing any damage. They should be able to get in if they just focus down something. So it looks like he's going to head in. These Hellions getting some good splash damage off. SCVs are going to get pulled into the main base now. Could see another BC get started. I really like to see that, but he's just too busy macroing his workers. Another BC is on the way. We have one BC currently starting to pick away at a lot of these roaches. Bailey's coming into the main base. They will get picked off though. Not a lot of units here to hold this. Still has a pretty big SCV lead, so if he is able to somehow clean this up without losing that many more SCVs, I think he's going to be in a great spot, especially considering he has BCs here. But with this Ling follow-up and these queens here at the natural, like these queens would very likely kill these command centers, and it looks like Vivid actually not able to get as many worker kills as I thought. This queen is in the natural, kind of stuck here now. Plus, Surprise could barricade off the entrance here and prevent any more Lings from getting in. But it doesn't look like he's going to be in time. Lings are going to flood into the main. And these are going to kill way too many SCVs. If he had gotten a wall off on the main base before this happened, he would have been able to just sit there and repair the BC. But even that CC is going to possibly break down. No, clutch repair come in. But there is 2 Battlecruisers here, and that's not enough queens to hold this off. But still, it's just too many workers. Because back at home, Vivid can just produce more queens and spores if he really needs to. Look at that target fire on the Balins. That was actually really sick. But I don't think that's going to be enough. There's just way too many Lings running in here. Finally, the dust has settled. The barracks is going to be part of the wall. Those Lings are going to come up and try to get in. 46 SCVs have been killed. Holy guacamole. More BCs here warping in over on the Zerg side of the map. And it's payback time, I guess. They're going to try to kill as much stuff as they can. Kill the queen at the natural. These queens don't have a whole lot of energy. And actually, Vivid not getting the transfuse off on that run queen. A lot of them are going down. And can Last Surprise win this with the BCs alone? I guess I don't know what I'm talking about. Last Surprise. With that amazing BC warp into the natural. Like, I just presumed there'd be more queens and spores to deal with that, but I guess they just didn't have enough energy. I don't know what they're using their energy on. Wow, that was a good series. Oops. Alright, so it looks like Last Surprise will be moving on to play Vindicta. Alright. How do I reset the scores? Oh. Cool. So it looks like we're going to be going into a bit of a team kill here. Vindicta versus Last Surprise. I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to bet on Vindicta. But that last series was really sick, that Last Surprise showed us. He really showed some good play. I to be honest, I wasn't really expecting that. Alright, so we got all our maps decided here. Luckily, both of them are Terrans, so my very little amount of knowledge that I have will come in very useful. Because the only knowledge I have is of Terran stuff. and what other races do versus Terran. Alright, looks like our players are ready, and we are going to get into our first match here on Acropolis. Okay. So, spawning up here, in the top left, we have our purple Terran from Alpha X, and his Last Surprise. And in the bottom right, we have our red Terran. It is Vindicta. Also from Alpha X. So I can't. I think I have cast Last Surprise a couple of times actually. I don't remember specifically any of his TVT stuff, so it'll be interesting to see what he does. Vindicta tends to have a pretty solid TVT. I've watched him play Future quite a bit, and he normally does really well. He just has such good army movement too, I think. Like, if you watch Vindicta play, when he's playing like the later stages of the game, he really knows what he needs to do with his army to progress. Even if he takes a couple bad fights, he really knows that, like, after that, like, okay, this is what I need to do if I'm going to win. So I think this is going to be a tough game for Last Surprise. And TVT is a very punishing matchup. So we'll have to see what openers these players decide to go for. Both of them just going for a pretty economical Reaper into CC. Not really seeing too much of that double gas style anymore. I think it's just kind of gotten a bit phased out. We're not really as worried about cheese anymore as we were a while ago, maybe. First couple of Reapers are out on the map. What's this in the middle? So Last Surprise is going to be cheeky with this SCV in the bush. I think Vindicta's just going to wait here in the smoke clouds as well. Both players not too eager to push onto their opponent's side of the map. Of course, like, when you are going for an economical style like this, it is very scary to send your Reaper to your opponent's side of the map. Just because, like, in the event that you end up losing it, you can get so so heavily punished, rather, by losing that Reaper. Because if you lose your 1 Reaper and then your opponent comes up with 2 Reapers into your natural, well, they can kill 2 or 3 SCVs possibly, or at least force you to pull into the main, or they can even delay the CC. They could probably, yeah, they get the jump on this 1 Reaper and kill 1, and they are going to kill a couple of SCVs. Yeah, so it looks like Last Surprise actually only opted for 1 Reaper this game, whereas Vindicta opted for 2. And Last Surprise getting those Hellions out a bit quicker. Last Surprise should catch this 1 Reaper. Yeah. The other one will loop its way back into the main base now. And these Reapers have really done quite a lot for Vindicta in this game, because they've let him know what his opponent's up to. He's gotten a full skid off in the main base, killed a couple of SCVs, killed a 1 Reaper, and force some disorganization. These Hellions are going to have to come all the way back up. And you can even see just like in the supply count and in the worker count just how much damage these Reapers have been able to get done. As Vindicta's already up 10 workers. Because it's not just that the Reapers killed stuff. It's that they distracted Last Surprise. He forgot to make SCVs. He was worried about those Reapers. He, his SCVs didn't get down to the natural in time. He's still not making SCVs at the moment. And I think that really has to do, in fact, with how many he lost from Vindicta. He's kind of razzled. And I don't blame him. Oops. I did not mean to bring that up. So both players opting for 4 Hellions. Actually, Last Surprise opting for 6, proving me wrong yet again. And he's actually heading across the map with 2 Marauders. I can't say I've seen this before. He's getting concussive shells as well. Looks like Last Surprise will get the better end of that fight, picking off 1 Hellion. There's a bunker here, so that's going to be pretty good versus these Marauders. And auto turret comes out. Will this be enough, though? A lot of the Hellions from Last Surprise got killed like right off the bat. So that's a really cute strategy here from Last Surprise, but I'm not quite sure how much I like that one. I feel like that just hits such a specific timing where your opponent only has Hellions out and you have Hellions out as well, but you also have the Marauders. And it's just delayed him quite a bit here. I don't believe we have a 3rd CC. No 3rd CC here from Last Surprise. So I think he's going to be all in off of a 2-base push here of some sort. We do see a Liberator in the main. Yeah, that's actually gotten a couple kills. Pretty good. It's going to back off. He can actually be quite abusive with this Liberator right now. I feel like he should send it around to the natural. He doesn't know this, but Vindicta doesn't have a Cyclone out. He doesn't have enough Marines to really deal with any anti-air. So if that Liberator came around to the natural and just set up like right there, it could stop mining. It's going to come back into the main node instead. This Raven will be here, and that auto turret will come down. Auto turret should be able to kill the Liberator. Yeah. Yeah, I know what I'm talking about. Alright, so 3rd CC is on location now for Vindicta. And we're seeing him power up here. His stim is actually finished, I believe. Yeah. Whereas, just because of the way Last Surprise started this game, his stim is going to be quite late. Last Surprise actually supply blocked as well. But based on the way that Vindicta's playing right now, I don't think we're going to see him head across the map anytime soon. So I don't think that stim timing is really going to come into play here. But I do think it's very important to note that just the economy lead that Vindicta has in this game from having such an early 3rd CC and not taking a lot of damage to that build at the start from Last Surprise, it's really just allowed Vindicta such a... Oops, I keep hitting the button by mistake. Such a comfortable way into this mid game. So got a little push out here. I guess Vindicta proving me wrong. I didn't think Vindicta was going to try to push, especially on such a low medevac count. It's kind of risky to put your whole army out on the map here when you only have the one medevac, but I guess he's just confident that his opponent is not going to have enough here to deal with him. A couple more medevacs are going to head in here, and he's gotten a good position on this low ground here. These siege tanks will be able to shell any units coming in. And he can even pick off that stim. That's actually really insanely huge, of course. We all understand the implications of that. And it looks like last surprise coming in here for some drop play. Interference Matrix went up down on those siege, or not siege tanks, sorry, medevacs, and stopped them from dropping any units. So not quite how he envisioned that, I presume. So pretty strong showing there from last surprise. I think that was an interesting build. I just think that's like such a niche timing to hit that you're gonna have a hard time hitting that versus Vindicta. I'd like to see him hit maybe a bit wider of a timing. I don't know how to phrase that. Oops, why is that showing up? One sec, sorry. Oh, sorry about that. I don't know why that appeared on stream. Okay. Alright. So down here in the bottom right side of the map, we have in the purple, it is Last Surprise. And up here in the top left, we have in the blue, it is Vindicta. And this must not be pinned up. So this game looks like we're going to have some proxy barracks action here from Last Surprise. Now, I always am a big fan of 2 Rex Reaper in TVT. I think in the current state of the game, this build just offers you so much flexibility that I think it's just really good to add into a series like this. I would never fault a player for doing this. But we do have Vindicta coming across the map, and he will go for an SCV Scout, which is actually not too common in TVT, I don't think. I don't see a huge amount of Terrans doing it consistently. But this should let Vindicta know what's going on. This is, of course, a map with a pretty long rush distance. I don't think it's going to affect his choice of building placement here. But it'll let him know that he's going to need to be very careful. And it's actually going to be 3 racks. And a possible 4th. Interesting. This looks like a Skylar build. So, yeah, he does see... This is definitely like a full committal, and we don't see him building any more SCVs. He has both the gases fully saturated. SCV and Reaper coming up into the main base. And there's only 1 Reaper out here currently for Vindicta. And that bunker should get delayed here. I was surprised doing a good job of picking that off. Of course, second Reaper comes up here. This is kind of an even fight right now, though, because there's 2 Reapers and or there's a Marine and a Reaper, rather, to fight this off. It's going to need to be really careful. Looks like it's just going to be 3 Rack Reaper to start here. There's actually a bunker up right now. Last surprise. Oh, he's kind of blocked off here. Vindicta's done an amazing job reacting to this very quickly. That depot blocks path up. He got a bunker at each other position that he could get up. And did he... Yeah, so Vindicta did cancel that CC, which I think is a good play. So it looks like Last Surprise is actually just going to try to jump up. Of course, I believe Vindicta should realize that this is 3x Reaper, so he doesn't really need an extra base. He just needs to hold on without taking too many worker hits. And this is really Last Surprise's only opportunity here. And I think with how the bunkers were set up, he wasn't able to get the momentum he needed. And I think this is going to kind of be the end of the game here. I don't think Last Surprise realistically has a shot in this game after that failed. As True-Axe Reaper, like, there's no room for macroing out of it. You are so committed to this. And of course you need that momentum to propel you, into that later game. And he just does not have that. So Marine's fully in that bunker there. Oh, those Hellions get such a sick shot off. GG's called. And that's going to be Vindicta, taking a pretty clean 2-0. And I think Last Surprise really showing some respect to Vindicta. Doesn't want to play him in a macro game. I think he realizes that that'd be a very tough thing for Last Surprise to do, I believe. Right. Okay, sorry about that. So we're gonna be starting off with Cham versus Asuna this time, instead of Vindicta versus Jim, as they were just starting to veto. So might as well get these guys out of the way here, because they were already. So spawn down here in the bottom right, we have in the blue, it is Cham. And in the top left, our purple Protoss, it is Asuna. A lot of Alpha X guys out tonight. They take up like half the bracket. Got a pretty standard wall off on the low ground here. He's sending, I don't know if that's a mistake, sending both these probes. It's not like he's cannon rushing, unless he wants to fake one. Interesting. Oh, he's gonna get a cannon. My bad. Oops, sorry about that. I'm not used to seeing the gateway into Forge. I'm used to seeing that Forge first. Alright, now we'll have to see how Cham is going to respond to this. Seeing those two probes, yeah, that makes Cham suspicious enough. He sends drones towards the natural, but they're not going to be quick enough as the probe does lock himself in the back there. Now, how is this cannon rush going to operate here? Definitely this natural is getting cancelled or killed. He's just going to cancel it. And I don't know how Cham likes to react to cannon rushes. Sabercore behind us. This gateway on the low ground there with one cannon. Looks like he's going to go try and build a hatchery somewhere else, but it looks like Asuna has seen that, and he could cannon rush that as well if he wants to. And he actually cancels that that gateway in the low ground. Interesting. Builds one more cannon there. It looks like Cham's actually ready to deal with any cannon rushes. What is Asuna's game plan here? So instead he's going to build a robo. Cham will see this. Shield battery is ready. Or coming up, sorry. And another pylon. So this is really nice from Cham. Normally when sorry, we see Zerg players going through this, it tends to be that the Zerg player kind of has to deal with being on one base for a bit and then find some way out of this. But this time it looks like Cham was able to take that base without being cannon rushed at that one as well. So this can be pretty helpful as it allows him to have a couple more options for how he wants to approach this. And definitely, yeah, Asuna definitely did see that. The Queen's got a lot of damage done on the pylon. It's actually not in range of the cannons from where it is, so it can just continue to pick away at that. Once that Immortal's out, though, of course, it's going to be a different story. 3 Spine Crawlers are on the way, and a couple of Zerglings. And unless Asuna actually targets one of these shield batteries there, he's going to be in a bit of trouble. That Immortal is going to get healed up so well. That Immortal can just deal so much damage here. Oh, actually gets a really nice surround on the Lings, though. Can that shield battery heal enough? And looks like the answer is going to be yes. Just deplete the energy almost completely, sorry, of that one shield battery. But we do have a Nidus on the way now. War Prism is out here, so it's going to be a lot of micro potential here from our Protoss player. Third Queen is on the way. I don't know how this is going to go down. He has a lot of Lings. I believe he's making... Oh, and Asuna actually sees the Nidus network. So it looks like, I think Cham just has to hold on just enough here. Still has a lot of shield batteries at the natural, so with some good Warp Prism micro, he can basically just infinitely deal damage to Cham here. The Spine Crawlers there put in actually an incredible amount of damage. It actually looks like he's going to use the Nidus network to go in between his bases at first. Then another one here for the natural. These Warp Prisms are actually getting quite low. I feel like this doesn't need to happen, but I think Asuna is just so concerned about what's going to happen here. And it looks like these queens have all headed across the map now, and they're going to take out this cannon and these gate, this cyber core possibly. I think they're going to head right into the main now. And is this going to be a base trade? Units have come back here. The Nidus does get healed, but will get taken out eventually. But there's 5 low health queens in the main. Plus, Immortals are getting very low. I have no clue what is going on in this game. Champ's supply looks pretty menacing. Like, he's had quite a lot of workers, actually, for most of this. But just the amount of damage that Asuna has been able to accumulate with these Immortals over the length of the game here is pretty crazy. Lungs are coming into the natural, trying to get one of those Immortals. There's actually only 8 workers left here for Asuna. I don't even know if they're mining. No, he's actually not mining if any of them. I don't know where they are. I think they're all at the natural. So Cham literally just needs to survive. And he's actually going to just completely evacuate the space and go towards his natural. Wait, what do you... See? Can he not? What is he doing? Maybe an accident? Okay, there you go. So all those drones evacuated. Got the natural, or not the natural, but the second base now. I think Cham wants to hold on to this ground for as long as he can because he wants that spawning pool alive. Because that is a pretty costly investment. Almost picks off an Immortal there. The shield batteries are starting to get somewhat low. The amount of kills these Immortals have. 28 kills, 16, 8, and 13. If you look at units lost here, look at that. That's just... What a horrible graph. And he's actually built a... He's built a Nexus to long distance mine. This is quite the con fiesta. He's getting a Spire. That Spire could actually do quite a lot of work here if Cham is able to get, like, say, like 4 or 5 Mutalisks out. That's going to completely shut down this Prism. And I don't think that Asuna really has an economy that's strong enough to build anything to tech out of that. Because he's going to have to rebuild that Cyber Core at the very least, which is really just not going to happen here. So I think unless Asuna is able to snipe that Spire, I think he just loses the game. That Prism's getting pretty low too. A nice part about how this is set up here, or not necessarily how it's set up, but how it is that it's so far away from the initial cannon rush location that the shield batteries are all worthless now. Like, Cham doesn't need to kill the base. He just needs to survive until he gets some mutas out. And he has 4 on the way. And I think once Asuna sees those mutas pop out, he's going to realize that, like, that the game's over with. Yeah, GG is called. Cham taking game number 1. That was a very interesting cannon rush. What a what a game. Oh my god. Alright, so we're going to be going into game 2 here on Winter's Gate. I better update that. completely forgot my fan was on. Why does StarCraft casting tool never work the way I want it to? Okay. So, starting off our game here, on the bottom right side, we have in a blue, starts our player from the last game, it's Cham. And up here on the top left, it's our Cannon Russian Protoss, just Astana. Interested if he will Cannon Rush again, or if that was a one-time thing. But Cannon Rushing is of course a lifestyle, and it's a hard habit to quit. So I will not be too surprised if we see him go back to his ugly, disgusting habits. Cham going for a hatch first again. So Cham not really respecting, I guess, another Cannon Rush. I don't necessarily know if he needs to, though. Doesn't look like it's going to be the one. It's going to be a gate into Nexus. So this is a pretty standard economical opening here from our Protoss player. Cham is keeping an Overlord at home, though, for a bit, just to make sure that no probes snuck in. So it's going to be a bit into this game until we can really see how this is going to pan out. This PvZ builds really take a bit to kick in. It's like building a house. You have to really make sure that like your foundation is all proper and everything's up to code. Because if it's not, suddenly like a million Zerglings will break through the foundation of your home and kill everyone that you love. It is really tough being a Protoss. Cham going for a pretty standard opening here as well. 2 queens into a third hatch. 1 more queen on the way. And looks like it's going to be a Stargate opener here from Astana. So really not, like, Stargate's never uncommon in any matchup. It's just always like it's like the mayonnaise option of Protoss. We'll have to see what he decides to go for, if it's going to be Oracles or Phoenix. I don't really know much about Astana. He is GM, but I've never really... I can't say I've heard much about him. I feel like I've casted a game of his before in an online cup. It's going to be Oracle, and we're going to have a Twilight follow-up here. Cham's just sticking on the Ling Tech for now. He's even getting a Baneling Nest. That's actually quite a lot of Lings that he's producing right now. So I think we might actually see a Bane bust from Cham, wanting to end this quickly perhaps. It's kind of taking a bit of a sneaky path here. We will have that Oracle coming into the natural, but actually Cham had really amazing positioning with these queens. Going to thwart that Oracle before it can get anything done. That's a lot of damage on it too. I wonder if it would have been a smarter decision to let the Oracle come in and try to do some damage so that it doesn't have any energy. But I guess, of course, that's negating the fact that all these adepts are here. And Astana is actually getting Glaive Adepts, which is really uncommon in this matchup. But is actually going to be very strong versus a specific style that Cham has decided to go for. Cham will see all these, so I presume he will put 2 and 2 together. Lings do break through the wall here. A lot of these gateways are unpowered. Looks like he's going to head straight up into the main base. Going to try to get as much probe kills as he can, as he is behind a bit in workers from just the start of this opening here. And a lot of adepts have shaded in towards the natural. We still have Lings in the main base of Asuna trying to do damage. But this is a lot of adepts, and they will have glaives here shortly. Now they have glaives, 40% attack speed, I believe. There's a lot of queens here, and the adepts definitely don't trade the best versus queens. If these adepts were to take a really big Bane lane hit, that could really be bad news for him. We'll have to see how these Bane lanes are going to impact on these adepts. Yeah, now it looks like this is finally the end of aggression here from both sides. And at the end of the day, Cham did come out a bit on top here. Especially, like, when you go for a Ling Bane like this, like, Ling Bane really doesn't transition that badly into the late game. Because you you're going to have Lings anyways, and Bane lanes are not a huge investment at all. So Cham can really progress in any direction he wants, whereas Asuna has kind of wasted a lot of his time and resources going down a tech path that he's not going to use again. Like, he's not going to use the depths for the rest of this game. He might make a couple, like he has 3 right now, but I don't think he's going to continue to produce many more of them unless he feels like he has to. Because they're definitely the strongest unit at his disposal currently, but really not what he wants to build going into the late game, as they scale very poorly. He's getting the Templar Archives behind this, so possibly going in the Storm. You might just get some Archons of this to try to deal with the mass amount of Ling Bane. But we do have Roaches on the way and a Lair. And plus Cham's on 3 bases. Like, he has a pretty good economy. It's 52 drones. And Asuna's really just not making constant workers here. I don't think he really cares about resaturated. Oh, there we go. Warp Prism on the way. So he might just want to get out some Archons and go for some harassment here to try to give him some space to take a 3rd here. That one Oracle has actually gotten quite a lot of kills this game. Probably mostly Zerglings. Supply's going pretty hard in favor of Cham at the moment, which I'm not too surprised, as he is going into Roaches, which are very supply dense. And it looks like Asuna actually wants to come in here. This is a really odd timing. I don't really know if this is like predicated on anything. It might just be that he doesn't think he can really come back, as he hasn't been building workers constantly. He's only at 41 to Cham's 64. So I think he's hoping he could come in here, get a really good fight, and possibly just end the game here. But this army of Chams is actually very impressive. One of these Archons goes down right off the bat. A lot of these Archons getting picked off immediately. Huge bending connections there on most of the army, and I think this should be the end of it. GG's going to be called. Cham with a very quick 2-0. Looks like Cham's going to be moving on to our finals. I believe Vindicta and Jim are in game. So just... Alright, so just checking on Vindicta versus... Okay. So Vindicta versus Jim, I believe they're in their last game right now. So it's 1-1. So one of them is going to be our winner. Or rather, one of them is going to win to go on to our finals. We'll have to find out once they're done. Just be a couple minutes. Hi, Endless. Alright, yeah, I think while we're waiting here for our finalists to be decided, I'm going to go and try to do the, there's like a $10 raffle, so I'm going to do that. So let me find out how to share my freaking browser. It's got being... Okay. Okay. So, we're going to go over our raffle here now. So I'm just going to use this online site called random.org. So I just put out everyone's names, separated by brackets, okay, or not by brackets, separated by lines, like I have here. These are all the players that were eligible to enter into the raffle. So I'm just going to hit a button, it'll give me a name, and they're going to win $10. Let's see who we get. So it looks like Eggs is going to get $10 for just playing in the tournament. Congrats to Eggs. Alright, so I guess we'll go back to waiting for our players here. Let's get level. So we've actually gone right into our first game here of the finals. Let's get us into our game. So our final is going to be between Cham and Jim Rising. So up here in the top left, we have in the blue, it is Cham. Down here in the bottom right, we have our red Zerg beating Jim Rising to get to the finals. Or, sorry, beating Vindicta to get to the finals. It is Jim Rising. Nice. I'm not sure if Jim's clan is an actual team or not, or if it's just like his thing. So interesting that both these players made it here. Both very strong Zerg players from, I believe they're both from Mexico. Yeah, I think Jim Rising's from Mexico. So let's see how both these guys can kind of match up here. Both going for similar builds. I think recently we haven't really seen as much like of the like Ling Baneling kind of like knife fight crap that we often seen a lot near the start of Legacy of the Void. I think stuff like that has just kind of gotten figured out quite a bit more. And Zerg players are much more confident and comfortable proceeding to kind of like a higher base count and just like a higher tech route in ZVZ. We often kind of see like a lot more CVZs get decided in the like mid to late game as opposed to the early game. Of course, you still can go for random link floods and stuff, but I feel like we're kind of getting out of that type of gameplay, and I think it's for the better. I'm not really a big fan of the ling bling stuff. Jim Rising actually going to take a pretty quick third base here. Cham has decided to get a third as well. And it looks to be just drones for the most part on the production tabs here. Cham getting a Baneling Nest. Probably just going to be a defensive one here. As we do still see drones on the production tab here for him as well. And it looks like that's actually going to come in quite handy, as we do see 16 lings on the production tab here from Jim Rising. So Jim maybe wants to try to go and cancel a hatchery here. Roach Warren coming up behind us, so maybe he's just hoping he can try to force a lot of lings and banelings here in response to this, and just follow up with some roaches, or at least progress his own tech himself behind this. I'll have to see how this pans out here. Lings are coming up here for Cham. These banelings are almost done, but they should be cancelled here by Jim. And really nice wall off here, possibly. No, not able to get that wall off. And a couple banelings have finished. They will come up here to help. But those lings have done quite a lot of damage, killing 2 queens and forcing out quite a lot of lings. We now see Jim Rising actually taking a lead in the drone count here. And that can actually only continue to rise, as these lings will be annoying, finding damage wherever they may. Big baneling hits up in the main base here. And Cham has finally closed this out. But behind this, Jim Rising has a Roach Warren. Their worker counts are fairly even. So, but Jim has the higher tech. Cham is getting +1 himself for ranged, but I don't believe he has a Roach Warren just yet, does he? No. So that's actually not going to pan in here, or not going to pay off rather, for quite a bit in this game. And Cham still has quite a lot of lings here on the ground to work with. I don't know if he's just going to use these and try to kind of keep Jim at home until he can get his own roaches up. See a couple drones in the production tab here for Cham. Not a huge amount of larvae here to work with for both these players. Especially since Cham lost both of his queens. It means he lost a couple rounds of injects there. We see Jim taking a small advantage in workers. Actually, huge run of drones coming out from him. I guess he feels pretty comfortable. Oops. I always hit that when I meant to do control F. These roaches are going to come in here. We do have a couple roaches here from Cham, and they will have +1 soon. I don't think it's going to play into this game at all. Or this fight, rather. And actually, Jim Rising losing a lot of roaches for basically only Zerglings, which I think Cham is perfectly fine taking that trade. Those Zerglings really were not going to be a big deal for him in the later stages of this game. Lair here for Jim Rising, almost finished. Meanwhile, we have a huge round of drones here for Cham. It's actually a bit behind the round of drones that Jim Rising produced earlier. So Jim Rising definitely has a bit of an economy advantage for now. And a bit of a tech advantage here as well, as he does have roach speed on the way. But really, I think both these players are in a pretty even position. It's really going to be up to either one to decide how they're going to break this. And it looks like Jim Rising is going to try to make a call here. He's going to go for a Spire, which is fairly common. And it's kind of like you either go Spire or you go Lurkers. That's the two, I think, main tech routes that I see a lot of Zerg players do. So Jim going to opt for a Spire here. We have Overlord Speed on the way here for Cham, which means he could get some information here about that Spire. Of course, even if he scouts it, like, that doesn't necessarily mean that he can, or he even has to use it. Oh, and Starkiller, it was Eggs who won the participation prize. I sent it to Colter, and I think he's AFK at the moment, so we'll see when he lets Eggs know about that. I didn't even get to cast any Starkiller games today. That's sad. 9 meters on the way here for Jim Rising. Jim has this really nice way of doing things here where he goes across the map and he pressures, and then he kind of does something different behind it, which I think is really the sign of a good Zerg player. This Roche attack here is going to, hopefully, I think for Jim Rising, force Cham into making more Roaches than maybe he wants to. And then these Melees will hopefully be able to get some damage done behind this. So you do see the flock on its way. Cham does have Hydralisks out, so I think in a straight up fight, it's not going to be a huge deal. Looks like he actually would be able to kill all the drones here at this base. Targets down that, Spore Crawler, and these Metas are able to do quite a lot of damage onto these Roaches. They kill a couple of drones here. I think most of them escaped. And Jim Rising really just doing a wonderful job here of just fluctuating in and out of what he's trying to do here. Like, he's just forcing so many decisions out of Cham, and really just kind of, it's almost like Jim is just taking him on a ride here. I don't even know how to describe it. +1 air attacks on the way too for Jim Rising, so I think that means he's going to be sticking with this meta style for quite a bit longer into this game. And with that +1, I think you can even take comfortable fights with your Roach meta versus their like Roach Hydra. I think ideally, obviously, like, you don't want to take any straight up fight of the meta list, but I think it just means that it's going to be a lot harder for Cham to really force like a big fight, because he's not going to be sure if he can even handle it. Damn, Jim has just been dominating throughout all this game. These Metas have now killed so many Overlords on the map. Like, you can just look at the vision that both these players have, and Jim has complete vision of the map. Cham is even supply blocked from the amount of Overlords that Jim has killed. One more Overlord out on the map here, but then Jim has Overlords everywhere. Like, he's going to see every single move out. He has information of everywhere. He'll know whatever Cham takes a base. But inversely, like, Cham is kind of boxed into his own corner here. It's down 50 supply. This is going to be tough. Even has to cancel that base. I don't know if it got killed or not. Have our first Lurkers on the way here. This should make it a bit easier for Cham here to try to hold on defensively, but these Metas are still going to come in here and they're going to find damage where they can. And with that +1 air weapons, they're really going to do a lot of damage whenever they can find a place in. Cham does have armor for his Roaches. Oh, huge run by here with all the Roaches. Realizes the army is a bit out of position there, and he's just going to dive in here and try to trade out some of his supply. He has a lot of money in the bank, so I think this is a really good call. If he can trade out these Roaches even kind of efficiently, it's definitely worth it for him. This keeps his opponent's bank to a minimum. These Lurkers are going to get some really nice shots off here onto these Roaches. A lot of them are low health, but still, this isn't a good fight for Cham overall, I think. He's lost a lot of drones from this. He could even lose the Hive, possibly. Don't think he has enough Roaches to really get that. But still very low. Meanwhile, Jim is just expanding like crazy here. Jim has spent his entire bank on 42 additional roaches. God. Jim Rising has just such great presence on the map here. Like, I don't think there's a period in this game where he hasn't been doing something. And it's really just catching Cham off guard a bit here. But Cham, I think he realizes that it's his time. He needs to head across the map. He lost way too many workers in that last run by from Jim Rising's roaches. He needs to try to force a straight up fight here. He has the lurkers, he has hydros. I think he just wants to try to take a really good fight here. But it looks like he engages without the entirety of his army here. And this huge clump of roaches here from Jim Rising is going to come in and try to fight. I don't think he can really fight versus these roaches, but these minas are going to come off. They're going to come in rather, and they're going to pick off reinforcements and pick off stray units here and there. And even if Jim Rising is to lose the base here, I don't necessarily think that's the end of the world. A couple of these lurkers getting picked off, a bit of an overextension there rather. But this army from Cham is actually starting to push through. More roaches are on the way though. Couple lurkers left over, and actually Cham comes out on top. Wow, I can say I did not really expect that. I thought Jim Rising was going to win that one. Cham just, he built up a good army, and Jim Rising just couldn't fight that straight up. ZVZ is a matchup where I really feel like my lack of knowledge becomes apparent. Looks like our next map is going to be Disco Bloodbath. Going to be starting shortly here. Igor, you are an MA Zerg. Alright. So, spawning down here in the bottom left. It is our red Zerg. It's Jim Rising. And down here, on the right side of the map, we have our blue Zerg. It's Cham. He's played a pretty solid overall game last time. Like, I think he really kept his cool. I think there was a lot of periods in that game that looked really, really bad for him. Just Jim Rising was so active and so present on the map that it was really dominating. Or Jim Rising was really dominating for a lot of that early game. But then Cham, he just hunkered down and he got a better unit comp and he headed across the map and was able to take some really good fights versus Jim. We'll have to see if both these players choosing to play similar styles into this next game. Like, I really liked that style that Jim was doing. I thought it worked out really well for the first while. Bit of a later gas here for Cham. I don't know what this means, but it means something. And we will find out. Possibly. Sorry. Alright, so speed on the way here for Cham. Jim hasn't started his speed. I wonder what Jim's saving up his gas to do here. Cham was a third base already, so Jim just going for a quick layer? Maybe 2-base Muta, or maybe... Could be a Nidus timing of some sort. He's getting 2 Evo Chambers and a Roach Form. Yeah, so it's probably going to be a Nidus attack of some sort. I think... Did Jim Rising lose one of his Overlords? Where did that occur? Haven't done natural. Okay. So, let's see. Let's see what Cham has seen this game. So Cham has literally not seen anything in the main base here from Jim Rising. So he has no clue about the gas. He has no clue about what is on the way here as far as buildings go. Roach speed on the way, +1. I guess this could just be a normal, or I don't want to say a normal, but just a 2-base Roach timing. Nice position here on the Queen is going to limit the surface area of the Lings on it, but Jim just hasn't gotten any defensive units out here to deal with this, actually. And this does give Cham a full scout of the main base. He sees exactly what Jim has made. We see Jim getting +1 attack and +1 Roach speed. So he's probably going to want to hit a timing of some sort here in the near future. Oops. But I gotta say, like, this isn't looking great here for Cham. So we'd see a Nidus on the way. Or, sorry, I think this is looking... I have no clue how to call this game. 7 more drones on the way here for Cham. We'll have to see what happens here once this Nidus goes off, if he has enough to deal with this, because this Nidus is going to be up very shortly. And Cham's only just starting his Roach production now. So, is it possible that Cham over-drones here? Especially because his Roach speed is going to be so late in comparison to Jim's. So it's going to be really hard for him to move his army to engage with Jim Rising's army here. He's definitely going to have to abandon this third base, I believe. Nidus does come out here. Roach is on the way. They do have speed, and they are very quick here. Going on to creep, picking off this Queen right off the bat, and they're going to try to kill as many of these drones as they can. Cham's small Roach force over here doesn't have speed, and it's not as big here as the Roach force from Jim Rising. Nidus in the main. This is going to be a tough hold, I think, for Cham. His Roaches are just not fast enough to deal with this. He doesn't have enough Roaches where he can leave some in the main, really, to just cancel this. All these eggs getting killed. And Cham's actually going to be kind of supply blocked here. Jim actually going to take a really good fight here. Not all the Roaches in position. This means Jim will be able to take a good fight here for the time being, as he has the Roach count advantage. Drones are pulled, which means a lot of them are going to go down to try to hold this off. Reinforcements come down from the main. And overall, that was a really good fight for Jim, I think. He was able to kill a lot of workers, even up the count here. His own third base is on the way. He just has to be careful that he doesn't lose too many units here, because behind us, he's droning a lot. So if he drones too much here and Cham just moves across the map, currently Cham has quite a superior Roach count to Jim Rising's. And I think, like, from Jim Rising's perspective, he should see that and be aware of that. He needs to just produce only Roaches from here on out, I think, if he wants to hold on. Looks like Jim is going to opt for some more Nidus play to try to keep Cham at home, but I don't think that's going to be enough to prevent Cham from heading across the map completely. I think Cham's just going to leave his reinforcements to try to deal with this. As we see, this army from Cham's already almost all the way across the map. So I think he's going to look for a cancel on this third base. Queen has gone down, but we do see reinforcements here from Jim Rising. Roach counts are actually very even, but I don't know if this is all of the roaches here from Cham. Jim's been really weird with, or not being really weird, rather, being really annoying with these Niduses, just constantly throwing them up, forcing a reaction out of Cham. Looks like he will get that one Nidus, but there's not enough roaches here currently to hold this off, and I think Jim will be able to get a good trade at these roaches. Another Nidus coming up with some reinforcements. And Cham just not in position. Looks like Cham's going to take a fight over here by the third base. But I don't... all these roaches are just marching to their deaths. I don't know who's going to come out on top here. It looks like Jim has been able to just take better fights overall here. And his forces were split up a bit better, I think. As he has quite a significant lead in roaches. And he's killing quite a lot of the workers here too. Whereas Cham's kind of stuck at the third base. I don't really think he can progress farther in. Yeah, it's going to be GG. Jim Rising going to tie it up. So we're loading into our, I believe it's our last match of the night. So up here in the top left, we have a red, who coming back in that last game and able to turn it around. It is Jim Rising. In the bottom right, we have a blue from Chivo SC. It is Cham. Looks like both these players opting for a hatch first this time. Seems like Cham really prefers to play like a very passive ZVZ. Whereas we see Jim Rising really likes to take the reins here. We'll have to wait and see what Jim Rising decides to do here. If he's going to do another like Ling. I don't want to call it Ling flood because he just built like 20 Lings and sent them across the map to try to cancel the third. But some sort of Ling timing or another Roach timing like that second game. Because I feel like he played that first game like immaculately well. He just couldn't fight that army of champs head up with what he had, or head on, head up. Jeez, what does that even mean? Third hatch is down here for Cham, but no third hatch in sight here for Jim Rising just yet. We do have a Roach Warren on the way. So it looks like maybe a similar build to last game. No layer though, so not going to be a Nidus. Could just be going for +1 timing. I'm not sure. Jim trying to pick off that Overlord. Not able to get that. Some Lings from Cham here are going to come up to the front, and I think he just kind of wants to see what is going on. As his Overlord is pushed a bit out of vision range. I'm not sure if you can see... Yeah, you can see the third base from there. So we have another Evo Chamber on the way and a layer on the way. So +1 is coming up here. Behind this, Cham is getting his own +1 as well. Cham does have a third base up for quite a bit longer than Jim will. So I'm interested to see how he's going to hold this. Okay, we do have a Nidus network coming up this time. Jim really seems to like his Niduses in ZVZ, and I really can't blame him. I think that style he was doing last game, where he was just constantly popping down Niduses left and right, trying to force Cham to get out of position, I think that really worked out pretty well for him. And I think it's a really strong tool that Zergs have in this like mid-game ZVZ. It lets them be very aggressive and just lets them multitask to their heart's content. Ling will try to get into the main base, not able to get in though. Oh, and a Spire coming down behind us. Very interesting. I wonder if Jim is just going to try to scare Cham with some Niduses, or did he cancel the Nidus? Yeah, I think he canceled it. I swear I seen one on the production tab. Maybe I'm just I probably am just missing brain cells or something, but who knows. So we'll be Midas this time. Some Zerglings at the natural layer of Jim will get cleaned up. But I'm not sure how much I like this, to be honest. Like I feel like with the Nidus, there's at least the possibility that you really catch your opponent out of position and you can take really good fights. But like when your opponent's been on 3 base for this long and he has the worker advantage, I feel like if you go Midas at this point, like it's a lot easier for Cham to just hunker down and play that late game. I really don't feel like there's any like possibility here to take an incredibly good fight like there was in that last game. Jim's going to be trying to be proactive with these roaches and just forcing Cham to move across the map and respond to him. Looks like he's gonna kind of try to take a fight here, but I don't think he can fight this army head up. Oops. Upgrades here are pretty even. Both at 1-1. These Mitas are gonna try to do as much damage as they can here, but I don't know how much damage these Mitas can actually add to the battle. I feel like Cham should be able to overpower these roaches and move on to the drone lines. And it doesn't look like Cham wants to commit all of his roaches. He's going to try to pull out. Still, though, behind this, Cham has kept an impressive economy. So I don't think that he's really at risk here. He's lost a decent amount of his roaches. That's for sure. He has hydras on the way, though. He's teching into quite a lot at this, all at once, though. So this could actually be pretty scary. A couple of these mules are going to get picked off. Jim dies right on top of all these units. These queens and hydras are really deadly towards these mules. They can pick them off quite quickly if they target them down. These roaches coming up to reinforce this. There's not a huge amount of units here from Cham. This might be able to break him, but the reinforcements from Cham, I don't think so. It's a nice try there by Jim, I think. But it's just, I feel like if he had just gone for Nidus in this game, he could have made use of the style that he's currently playing much better. I don't think the mutas are going to help him at this stage of the game. If he had initially just went for them right away and maybe kind of skimped some more roaches, or at the very least like got the roach upgrades later, I feel like he can be in a much better position. But he just threw away all of the mutas that he built, and that's a huge investment. Especially when you're already behind in the economy. Both players are getting a 4th base, so their economies have both stabilized to a pretty even position. The Cham does hold a significant lead here, both in terms of workers and army. And plus, like, he has a better tech route now. Like, I think he was at his weakest when he was trying to get the infestation pit and the lurker den. And I think Jim was trying to take advantage of that, possibly. But he just did not have enough that he could really fight that straight up. Big ball of roaches coming in here towards the fort. We'll try to cancel it, but there is a force here from Cham to respond. Meanwhile, these mutas are trying to find some damage. They have +1 as well, so they definitely can add some damage in. But there's just not enough of them to really warrant any sort of response, really. Like, there's what, maybe like 10 of them, like 12, 15 meters total. Okay. He's building 5 more actually, so he's getting up to quite a number of mutalisks. I'm kind of surprised by that. Gonna kind of try to do what he was doing in that first game, where he's taking control of the map, he's controlling the spread of overlords, and he's gonna try to find his way into nooks and crannies where he can find some damage. It looks like he's inting some roaches into the natural there. Because Mina's gonna try to pick off stray units where they can, but they definitely can't go in and dive on anything really. Mina's gonna try to come in here to the 3rd base, but hydras and queens are there to greet them. And I think Cham's really wised up to what Jim is trying to do in this game. He's not going to let himself be open to any sort of run-bys or counter-pressures here. Looks like these mutas have finally found a way in here. I know Jim specifically targeted down the spore crawlers in the main base here, so it means all these queens and all these hydras are going to have to reposition. But there's really not a lot in the main here for Jim to kill. All the drones have already died. And it's not like this base is really mining an incredible amount to begin with here. It's going to cause Cham to re-drone a little bit here. And Jim's actually gone up to 27 mutas, which is pretty crazy. And they do have +1. I'm not sure if he's going to get +2 for them anytime soon. And I mean, if Cham has any lapse in judgment of where he partitions his forces, it's really easy for Jim to come in and just completely destroy a small portion of units. But now Cham has some lurkers out, so this is going to be pretty scary for Jim to really head into in the later game, I think. I don't know what Jim is... Let's see what he's getting behind this. So Jim's only now just getting a Hydra down, so it looks like he's going to try to go into lurkers a bit himself. Nice split there. Still 6 more meters on the way too. This is forcing a very patient game at a Cham. I don't think Cham can really afford to move his entire army across the map, because if he does, I think Jim is just going to try to force like a base trade of some sort of these meters. Huge parasitic bombs going down on all these meters. Some of them are still clumped up, taking a huge amount of damage. Oh, some of them are still red. Oh. One more parasitic bomb on those could do an incredible amount of damage. We do have tunneling claws roaches coming in at the 4th, or this is rather the 5th base. It's going to force a lot of detection here. Instantaneous response there from Jim. As soon as he sees that, see a lot of overseers get produced. And it looks like Cham is using this opportunity, now that he realizes that Jim is kind of bogged down with the defense here, he's going to move into position. Because he knows the mutas are home. And these mutas definitely cannot, they don't have the health to face this army straight up. If they get hit by a couple more parasitic bombs, those mutas are just going to be dead. 30 drones have gone down. I think this is really the beginning of the end here. Even if somehow Jim can kill this army, I don't think he has the economy to survive longer. Looks like the base trade has initiated. Roaches are coming in. They're trying to dive right on top of all these lurkers. Lightning clouds are going down on all these roaches, forcing them to close the gap. And they're just getting torn to shreds by these lurkers. Meanwhile, we do have a lot of mutalisks here. Oops. Let's see what our count is. 27 mutalisks currently. Just watch that number drop as they continue fighting. But there's still a lot of lurkers, and I think that's what's coming home right now. This lurker army, they have a lot of energy. Couple of parasitic bombs on this Metaflock, and that could be utterly devastating. I don't think these mutas have done enough damage. Whereas we see Cham just continuing to destroy the bases here of Jim. Snipers. Are they? Is he going to move the Vipers in? Oh, it's coming in. Oh, parasitic bombs are going off. And looks like he will trade all the Vipers out, but if he kills all the mutalisks, yeah, that's going to be it. GG. Jim taking this game. Or Cham taking this game, rather. I am actually a bit uncertain. I believe the finals is supposed to be best of 3. We'll have to see if they make another lobby or not. I asked Coltern, but I think he's AFK. Yeah, the finals is best of 3. We're all Gucci. Alright, so it looks like Cham will be our victor here. Cham takes it 2-1 over Jim Rising in the finals. Eggs was the winner of our $10 raffle. So I believe Coltern will be in touch. That's going to be it for our stream today. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Hope you have a good night. Cheers.